Raindance is an organization that works to help support and promote independent filmmaking and filmmakers all over the world. We're an international organization with 12 hubs in cities worldwide. And what we try to do is celebrate, support, and promote and evolve independent cinema, which is why we're super excited. Oh, thank you. All the applause is going right to my head, so keep it coming. Because Canadians need to stop apologizing, frankly. And that's why I love that the tagline of the film Gore, Quebec is, "Not all Canadians are polite." I think that's very apropos. So the reason that we're especially excited about tonight is not just because Jameson Whiskey has come on board, but also because we have a really interesting and diverse mix of talent that we're seeing tonight. Not only are we seeing the feature film Gore, Quebec, produced, directed, and co-written by J.B. Lauzon, the filmmaker who's here tonight, and he'll be a part of our Q&A. But we also have a selection of short films that come from every different space in people's careers. We have Lemon by Mark Corbin, who's a career composer, a brilliant musician, and this is a short film that he directed with really interesting and fantastic production values and a very touching story. We have two short films produced by our Raindance on Campus group at UFT, the filmmakers Nathan Chan and Simon Cheek, who are also here tonight. And those films are Don't Do Drugs, which is a great message coming from a university, I love it, and Side Effect as well. And then we also have, we're really excited to bring a gent onto our team who you are going to see over here with a camera for much of the evening. His name is Dale Sood, and we're also playing his film, his short that he directed, The Right Man. So of those films, we've got a great diversity in the Raindance network, people at different points in their career, just starting out or have made a few things that they've got tucked under their belt. And then we also have a really interesting short film called The Gift, starring Uma Thurman. Now it sounds like it's a little bit out of whack because you're like, whoa, it's an indie film with Uma Thurman, a short film with just a two-person cast, one location. And the reason we're showing that film is because Jameson has a really interesting new program that's come to Canada called Jameson First Shots. And Jameson First Shot basically gives new directors and filmmakers the opportunity to have their first shot to work with Kevin Spacey and his production company, Tattersall Productions. And this year, it's Adrian Brody who they get to direct. So you're going to see a message from Adrian Brody tonight that talks a little bit about why Jameson has decided to do First Shot. You're going to see the film starring Uma Thurman, The Gift, that was directed by a first-time, no-name director who had full writing credit, full creative control, and also got to work with Kevin Spacey as EP, which I'm sure was a whole lot of fun. And then we're also really fortunate to have John Houlihan, who's the field marketing manager for Jameson here in Canada, who's responsible for bringing this fantastic program here and giving all of us the opportunity to submit to this great program. And he'll be here to answer questions during the Q&A as well. So all that being said, I just want to thank all of you guys for being here tonight, for supporting indie film, for drinking our free booze. And most of all, I want to thank the filmmakers who work so hard under the radar, make stuff right out of their own pocket, drain their bank accounts, because they've just got to tell a fucking story. All right, so let's go ahead and roll it short. All right, do you guys have questions about this? Maybe a couple? All right, well, we're going to go into the Q&A now. So please join me in welcoming up. First, we're going to bring down John Houlihan of Jameson Whiskey. John, come on down. John's going to be talking a little bit about our first shorts and about our film with Uma Thurman, The Gift. Next, we're going to bring down the star of this film, Amanda, Murthy Stagg. Could you come on down?
Murthy.
Damn it, Murthy. Working in Canadian film, you should get used to names outside of the standard like that. Cheers. Thank you. All right, in the center. And then lastly, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the director and producer of this film, J.B. Lauzon. So, J.B., the story behind this film is probably a perennial Canadian indie low-budget story. So I'm just going to ask you to give us, the one-liner of what it took to make this film.
Desperation. It was like I had to convince pretty much everybody who wanted to work on the film to participate in it, just because they were like, you're stupid, like you're not making a movie for that amount of money. And actually, so it wasn't even $7,000. We started out, so principal photography was shot and wrapped for $2,300. And so everyone was like, yeah, no, this is not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You're gonna try to make a feature film. Okay, we'll come out for a couple weekends. I had, in my post on Craigslist, I said that the locations were provided, obviously the accommodations were provided, and we had catering done by a chef. So that was, I think, the sole reason. I
went for the food, for sure.
Yeah, and food was good, but that was effective. I think a lot of people just came out, okay, this could be a big joke, but at least we'll be fed. A couple weekends up in Muskoka, not a big deal. But yeah, as it turned out, I mean, I got lucky, frankly, with the quality of the people that we got to work with. I thought the acting was quite strong. Can we get one last round of applause? Initially, I hired her for her hair. I thought her hair was like a character unto itself in the film. But then I found out she could also act. Yeah, the long story short was it was just desperately trying to make a film. That was the start and end to all of this. Was just to try to make a film, try to make a product that was saleable. Mostly everyone told me, like, stop being stupid and stubborn. Just make a short. Just really make a short. And the only reason that I'm here in front of you is that we didn't make a short. We made a feature. For $7,000, you can clearly make a feature film. I got everybody off the internet. My folks in the audience tonight, when I told them, I said, Mom, Dad, you know, your beautiful cottage, I'm going to bring 10 strangers I found off the internet to make a movie. Can we shoot on Thanksgiving too, if you don't mind? And it took some negotiation, but they eventually acquiesced, and I'm happy that they did.
And you offered to pay for the cleaning service at the end, I assume.
Oh, the actors helped
we were
clean.
the cleaning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, group effort. Everyone wore like 2 or 3 hats. It was like we were lugging out. So all those shots in the middle of the forest are about 25 minutes down trail, I guess. And everybody was carrying just gear. We had to lug a generator, which we ended up not even freaking using because it didn't work. we had to lug it, like, I think it was, I don't know, it was like 10 minutes in, everyone was sweating, and it was just a really big, it's a cool story because everyone really pitched in and everybody suffered. And so that, I think, got the whole bonds of camaraderie and collaboration going because everybody was just pissed off. It wasn't just 1 or 2 people, and you know, some people were taking it easy. Everyone was just pissed, and they were wondering why they agreed to do this. And so everybody has to be on the same, feeling the same emotion, I guess, for it to be successful.
And just some backstory for those of you who may not know. So as JB mentioned, this film was shot for $7,000 or less, probably. Just bumped it up.
Yeah.
Big Hollywood studios would pay attention.
Nice round number.
It was shot it was produced entirely, and it's entirely from start to finish in about 7 months, and it was shot over 6 weekends, approximately.
Yep.
And all cast and predominantly crewed on Craigslist.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Rick, the writer, he's actually, so Rick, he's the genesis of the story. He has well, I think he went to, no, I know he went to school at McGill. Gore is a small town just northwest of Montreal. And so he, just one day, we were having beers, and I think we were both unemployed at the time, or, you know, dreaming big still. And it's like, well, how about we make a movie? I have this cool idea of a movie called Gore, Quebec. I thought, that sounds all right. So it was because of him, and because I met with our cinematographer, Kyle Fowler. He had just recently bought a camera and was looking to get into the industry, and I talked to him. He was like, wicked, my rate's $1,000 a day for the camera. I laughed. I was like, I have like $600. And I can't even pay you that because I have to, you know, pay for food and such. So I said, if we can just offset your cost by giving you a credit as director of photography, you've got full run, like it's very much going to be a collaborative effort, and you manage your own equipment, so there's no risk on, you know, damaging the equipment. It was only because we were able to get a few key cogs, people who were effectively their own heads of department, that could manage their own shit and just really kind of get down to, when you ask them to do something, they go, you know what, that's actually a dumb idea, I'm going to do it this way, and then you realize, oh, yeah, that was a dumb idea. Your way sounds better. When you have people who are able to offer you that sort of advice, and you start to listen to them, and then progressively that some of your, what's that expression? ESL, some of the parts greater than some of the
JB, by the
whole
way, has a
thing-
terrible flu. I just wanted to point that out. Check this out. Oh, right here. He hid them behind his play card.
Normally, I think a little bit better on my feet. I'm just so doped up. Anyway, everyone else added something to the production. The sum of the whole was greater than that of its parts.
And I've gotta jump in there because this is your first film, JB. It's your first time directing, your first time producing. You've never even
First time.
directed a
That's
short.
I popped my cherry on this movie.
Yeah, no shorts even, just bang on to the
Yeah.
full-length feature. And tell us a bit about, you were trying to make a sellable film,
Mhm.
so you wanted to find a film with an audience. So can you tell us a bit about the people that you were talking to? So in distribution, for instance, E1, who picked up this film and are now distributing it. You can buy this on Amazon, by the way. What
If you
were
can
they
find a
looking for?
DVD, it's almost sold out.
That's true. It sold out the first day, and then they restocked. So let's hope there's still a couple available. But
There's
so stocking stuffer guys,
Saying.
right here, Gore Connect.
Just saying.
So what were they looking for? What were the things that kind of stood out for you when you were shopping around trying to find people to pick up this film?
The three main things were trailer, the first 20 minutes, and the poster, frankly. They said you had a good poster, the Not All Canadians Are Polite, which I do like that tagline a lot. What did I say? 20 minutes? Yeah, the first 20 minutes of the film. So once you get through the found footage garbage and like that shaky, awful, I appreciate the fact that I think most of you probably felt the same thing as the rest of us feel, which was I hope that this movie is not what the first 10 minutes are. And I think that's effective, right? Because once you get through the first 10 minutes and you get into the more cinematic aspect, you go, oh, fuck, you know, this plays all right. Like, and that shift really accentuates the visual quality of the film, the locations, etc. And a good trailer. A good trailer. Oh, of note, all the songs you heard I got for free off the internet as well. Really, it's awesome. It's pretty cool. You just post up to Craigslist and you offer people an opportunity. And that's, I think, effectively what the conversation I had with Mirth and a lot of the other actors and actresses was, I cannot pay you, but you have this great opportunity to work on a feature film, which is very different than working on a short. For the sole reason that we now have a DVD, because you can actually sell it, you know. And if there's a cool story or someone happens to be bored in some distribution company, and they say, okay, I like that movie, I was able to get through it. Whatever the case is, we now have a finished product that you've been able to watch and enjoy. So that was a real selling feature of the film, was just being able to work. I mean, it surely wasn't working with me. I told everybody, this is my first film, it's gonna be a freaking nightmare. But it will be a feature, and I stubbornly held to that a few times. A few people throughout the film were like, stop being a dickhead, just make this a short. It's gonna be so much easier, and I don't like you, so just make this a short. And
That wasn't me, I want everyone to know.
So Murphy, I have to jump in here because so if this dickhead, why do you work with them? Just curious.
it's a good question.
I have no good answer for that, I mean.
She was desperate.
Yeah, I was dying. No, I went to the audition and he was a person with a lot of fire and a lot of initiative, and as you can see, like, he's made a lot happen with very little, and you can see that right when you meet JB. And as an actor, I mean, you will take what you can get at the beginning.
Yep.
But, you know, I walked in this audition and I felt good about it right away, and the relationship that we had in the audition, you could tell right away as an actor, like, what they're like as a person, you know, and JB, like I said, was full of fire, and we just kind of took off, you know.
This was your first movie, right?
First feature, yeah.
First feature, she's on DVD. Not bad.
That's pretty good. Yeah. What are you working on right now?
I'm mainly a theater actor, so I'm doing that now. But I do audition in film, and I'm still working on it. Yeah,
What was it about the Craigslist post that I have to know what you clicked on that
I
brought
don't
you to
know.
the
I don't even
Craigslist
remember
post?
what it said. I'm sure he has a copy of it printed out at home. I don't know. You know, there's sometimes, like, as an actor, when you're just starting out. I just moved here from Nova Scotia. I'm Nova Scotian, and I graduated from theater school. And, you know, you're just like got this like juice in you. You really want to work in the craft. And I just done 2 plays, and like I was like, now's the time. I'm gonna do a movie. Not that I really knew what I was doing at that point, but I don't know. You're just searching every medium on the internet to find that, and I just happened to come across this. I guess luckily.
So speaking of the internet, it's all right, I guess. Well, you got some free whiskey out of it in the end.
Yes.
Hopefully-
Thank you.
hopefully that was worthwhile.
Big round of applause for Jameson, please. Thank you.
whiskey fantastic, but also that the internet is a really rich and interesting place to find ways to make films, whether it's to work on your first feature as an actor or to crew an entire feature as your first production, which is why we're really interested in talking a bit about Jameson First Shot. So John, at the end here, as I mentioned, who is responsible for all the delicious libations that we enjoyed this evening, is also responsible for bringing First Shot to Canada. And the Uma Thurman film that you saw was written and directed by a first-time filmmaker. So John, if you'd like to talk a little bit about First Shot and how this opportunity should be, grabbed thusly and throttled almost by this Canadian audience, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So we have a pretty proud lineage with film, goes back quite a way, over 20 years. Fairly humble beginnings with a local Dublin Film Festival, which I suppose we took that formula and it was replicated in a number of countries globally. Over the years, I suppose it built momentum. And then I think back around 2009, 2010, through a chance meeting, we, at the International Dublin Film Festival, Kevin Spacey attended as a guest, and conversations apparently happened over whiskey behind the scenes, and he's obviously involved with Trigger Street Productions himself, and Dana Brunelli are essentially the front figures of that entity, and essentially approached us on the basis of our involvement with film to see whether we'd be interested in coming together to collaborate on this idea he had around this concept of First Shot. And I don't know how familiar everybody is with Kevin Spacey's background, but it's quite interesting. I didn't know a lot about it. I had the pleasure of meeting him about 4 years ago now, and his hero is Jack Lemmon, and I think Jack Lemmon's philosophy essentially summed up about this idea of sending the elevator back down. So his belief was that for anybody who makes it in the film industry, that they have moral responsibility in which to ensure that those who work at the grassroots level are given an opportunity in which to kind of try and apply their trade in the business on an ongoing basis. So yeah, it was born in 2010. From there, the idea was that we would try and create a platform for aspiring film script writers to come forward and submit scripts. Year one, it was based in South Africa, Russia, and the US. We ran that for 3 years very successfully. I'm pleased to announce that we are running it for another 3 years. So this year, though, the fundamental difference being that we've now opened it up to a number of markets globally, so it's much more global in its footprint. So very happy to say that it's coming to Canada. We only got that news in the last couple of weeks. And yeah, from there, I suppose, I don't know who's had a chance to look at it. It's very, there's a lot of information online, but as I've said, the idea is that aspiring script writers would submit a script. The competition runs until February 2nd, at which point it will be closed, and each market globally will then have essentially a local winner. From there, those local winners will be distilled down through Trigger Street.
Good fun. Sorry, come on, we got it. Can't leave that one hanging.
There'll be a global winner who get I suppose, very lucky to travel to LA with Kevin Spacey and Dana Brunelli to make their film in their studios there, and yeah, on they go, I suppose.
Absolutely, it's a great opportunity, and some of the nuts and bolts on that. The script has to be up to 7 pages long. It can't have excessive drinking or drug use, which makes sense. It also has to have a theme of the everyday made extraordinary, or the everyday and kind of looking at it in an interesting lens. So it's not at all an onerous process to submit. It's really just a screenplay of 6 to 7 pages. Do you think any of you guys can do that? Who's interested in submitting to that? Anybody? Hands up. Oh yeah, there we go.
See some of these Centennial students, you guys are being real shy.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to some questions now. So if anyone has questions for either John or JB or, damn it, Murthin. I keep wanting to say Mithril. Damn it, sorry.
You're an element in Lord of the Rings. That's pretty cool.
My next part.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes, I just had a question for JB about the casting process. Can you talk a little bit about how extensive it was, how many people you saw?
Sure. So Rick and I remember this clearly. We sat down one day. Rick and I were procrastinating. We had determined that we were going to make a movie, and then 3 months later, we realized we hadn't really done a whole hell of a lot to actually make that happen. So we sat down one day, wrote that proper professional call to audition. What we thought was professional. It's professional compared to the rest of the Craigslist ads for porn and adult actors and such. I mean, it's you go to Craigslist, you look for film, that's exactly what you see. But ours just kind of fit right in there. We got, I think, about 70. That was a nice turn of phrase. Come on.
Good, I'm sorry. I already used my pun meter.
I was saving. So we got about 70 people who came, who responded, and some were just not appropriate, like the lingerie photos and everything. And I'm serious. And you didn't.
Great tip for actors: don't send lingerie photos.
Yeah. Yeah, it really didn't help out the casting process.
I only sent like 2 or 3.
She was wearing a poncho.
And then, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry. It's all the time. I'm usually funnier. This is taking a lot of time. I'm really sorry. I'll get to it. 2 auditions. I held the first one at my high school for legitimacy. I just called them and said, look, I need a place where people won't think I'm ghetto and I'm not trying to screw people over. And so we had one posting at the Tarragon Theater. I was actually calling around a bunch of places, and they wanted like $300 or $400 to book a room. And I called down to the Tarragon, and they said, yeah, $15, you got 3 hours. Okay. And actually there I met a guy who was doing a Bravo fact. He was shooting a short for $25,000. I met him as we were going into auditions. He was like, hey, what are you doing? I told him about the project, and I was like, I've got $2,300 right now. And he looked at me, he was like, hey, good luck, see ya. And he walked right out. So that was, the first step was Tarragon. Second step, she read twice. She's a theater actress, and so the first time she came in, she was a little bit big, because as a theater actor or actress, you stand here and you project to the back of the room. You don't realize, or you're not trained, I shouldn't say that. You're not trained to perform in front of a camera. It's a little bit different. So from the first to second audition, Murthan went from theater to, she took all of my direction. She took all of the notes pretty cleanly and incorporated all of them very quickly, and I knew immediately, I said, okay, no, I'm working with her for sure. Because if she's able to be dynamic and kind of fluid enough to respond that quickly, then that's somebody I want to work with, because that's surely something that we're going to need, and she'll be an asset on set, and that was very much the case.
And that's also a really good tip about when you're doing casting, don't do it at like a counter in an Arby's.
Yeah.
Find a place that lends legitimacy for sure. Comedy Bar is a great place to rent space, by the way, and Raindance, if you're a member with us, you can use our studio for free.
Yeah.
So, sorry, this question there?
No. I studied a lot of. I should.
That's it.
I have a Bachelor of Commerce from McMaster. I took a minor in film, so I have studied film theoretically. One of my favorite courses to study was Japanese cinema. I really like the Japanese aesthetic, and that really influenced me in terms of what I studied. But I took a course at McMaster. It was such a joke. It was called Independent Film and Video. And what we did, I thought it was going to be like, wicked, this is going to be showing me how to make independent film and video. No! It was, at one point, there was a camera shooting up, it was a pane of glass, and there was a guy, and he was just over the pane, just swirling spit around with his tongue. We watched that for 7 minutes in class. I was like, fuck it, this is not for me. So, certain things you learn at the university, certain things you do not. I watched a lot of Lord of the Rings behind the scenes, the making of. They've got the 3 box sets. I think I've watched those like 45 times individually. I've watched them more than I have the actual films. So I've watched a lot, like most of my practical filmmaking expertise. What I know of practical filmmaking was derived solely from behind the scenes featurettes. The only reason I was confident was because I played a lot of sports, and so I'm able to visualize really well. It's a clear transition. Yeah. I've ever played volleyball, make a movie. Okay. I wasn't a tremendous athlete, but one of my skills that I had was I was able to visualize well whatever sport I was playing. So either hockey or soccer or whatever, just being able to visualize was a strength I had. So that was like, that's really what I held on to. I was like, I can make a pass in hockey and soccer, so I think I can make a move.
Just before you move on, can I just for my own satisfaction, I have to know,
Yeah, man.
if you're in a room and you have any kind of union affiliation, could you just raise your hand?
This was all non-union, actually.
No, I know, I realize, I just needed to know that for
Go.
my own things.
That's-
You're all equally welcome, by the way, here in Raindance. Union and non-union alike, there's enough room in the sandbox
Yeah,
for
don't
everybody to
segregate
play.
everybody.
No, it's the, you have to understand.
But
it's
share
not
the
about
really
that.
nice toys. I think
It's-
we should share those.
What, why I ask is because as a union member, I am just, having this inner struggle about
Yep.
the work that I'm doing and the work that I can't do.
Absolutely.
And that's the only reason.
No,
I
that's a
asked
great
the
point.
question.
That's a great point, actually, because, and so, for those of you who don't know, if you're union, you can only really work on union gigs. If you're not union, then you're not supposed to. Which is a real jam, because for some actors, at first, it's a struggle to get into the union. And then you don't really get that many good opportunities within that, because there's a whole hierarchy. I don't really know much of it, frankly. I'm
There's
not
a
part
small
of the
fish
union.
in a really big pond.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And this gentleman's been waiting for a question for a while.
Sure.
Yeah, hi, enjoyed the movie?
Good.
I felt like I got my $10 worth.
It was whiskey, probably, right?
Drinking whiskey, I'll start drinking again because of you.
Good.
That's
There you
$8
go.
plus.
So, JB Lauzon, right?
Yeah.
You're like one letter off from JC Lauzon.
Should I know who that gentleman is?
Say hello, Jean-Claude Lauzon. Anyways, forget, I'm old, okay? Okay, this is my question.
Help me out here, who?
You like
It's a French director, anyways, forget it. This is my question, okay?
I should,
I'm a big
that's
fan of
something I
horror.
should know, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'll look into it now.
Anyways, he made really good films. Anyways, my question is, the #1 rule in horror movies is you have to have nudity.
Yeah.
And the question is,
Yeah.
you mentioned this thing about these lingerie pictures and that and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, that scene, that beautiful shot when Amanda was taking off her bra, kind of
Yeah.
turning around, but then it just kind of, like, was that intentional or was that like an argument?
Oh,
or-
it pissed me off, man. I couldn't pair, so she was like, I'm not getting naked for you.
Yeah. Welcome to the club. I had that exact
Yeah.
same problem. That's
Yeah.
the first thing actresses say. Say, okay, I'm not doing nudity. I'll be in your movie, but I'm not going to do nudity. It's like,
That is the first rule of horror movies, actually, is you have to, if you want to entertain the audience, everyone's giving you a bad look. I hear where you're coming from, buddy. It's okay. Because a typical horror trope is you get a whole bunch of gore, you get a whole bunch, and then there's some nudity, and the virginal victim dies, or whatever. That wasn't happening. And I thought better leave more to the imagination than not.
no.
It wasn't written into the script either.
No.
No, like,
No.
it wasn't like a
We
conversation
knew our
that we
limitations.
had.
No.
Yeah, we just.
And Merton, I want to ask actually, because I was really interested in seeing, at the end with you had the paddle, you knocked the killer unconscious. That is not the typical
Nope.
kind of ending to that. How did you feel, being a lady? The tropes were kind of subverted a little bit in this film.
It's I'm a tall girl, and I sometimes hate that and sometimes love that. But sometimes that becomes a thing of dominance, and some people get intimidated by me because of.
You're huge.
Because I'm
You're
massive.
huge.
Because I have I guess a big presence, and I'm tall, and
It's the hair.
I'm talking. No, I'm just kidding. It's the hair. So walking into this, it wasn't unfamiliar to me. Yes, generally when I do get cast, I do get cast in that vein of the very confident woman. But it's sometimes harder for me to play the other side. But in this film particularly, we did play with that a lot, and it became sort of a theme. So it was me who started the car. It was me that.
Well, you rescue him, you pick him up.
Yeah, exactly. Me who picks him up, and
He was useless, by the way.
and the turning point was the moment where I saw the heights, and that was the one moment where he was the one that had to be the one to coax me down to help me, where I had been helping him all along, and do so afterwards.
Right, yeah, Rick and I, when we were crafting the story, just very quickly, Rick felt really strongly that the heroine was more interesting than just doing some guy who was rescuing, whatever. It was boring. It wasn't really inventive. So that was something that we felt strongly about from the start. And I thought it was cooler that she beat the hell out of the killer with the paddle instead of being the guy. The guy's kind of backing up in that Mexican kind of standoff, and she comes in, forget this. So I thought that worked better.
And a smart weapon choice. Yeah,
Yeah.
right there. Yeah.
I have two questions. First thing, how did you plan your shooting schedule? And
What's your second question?
what was the first thing you did right after wrap up to get the movie
The
out there?
select,
So
So shooting schedule. So we shot over 16 days, predominantly on weekends. And the bitch of this film was that we were shooting in fall, which is great 'cause it's really pretty, but fall is short. And it's very, very, obviously when the leaves fall, I'm not sure if you, very few people have noticed. We started shooting, well you wouldn't notice it, we started shooting sort of late summer, like mid-September. And we wrapped in, well, forgetting the winter stuff, we wrapped in early November. So the one scene where she's hitting the guy, she's hitting Luke, or the killer, with the paddle, was shot November 5th. There were no leaves. So we had to start shooting with evergreens as a background. And that was a clever way to kind of work around it because obviously seasonally you have no reference with evergreens, so that was a little workaround. Excuse me. So shooting schedule, we worked it through the script, just blocks of actors and availability. It really was like who's available, who can come when, what sort of locations we have available when. My folks, we had Thanksgiving kind of skewer our shooting schedule, so we had to kind of shoot a little bit around that. Yeah, like just thinking on our feet, really. And your second question was,
what you did right
What did you
after
do
wrap
right?
up to get the movie out there?
we spent $1,300 on film festivals. Ask me how many we got in.
None.
You guys, one. One. We submitted to the Raindance Film Festival in London. Didn't get it. The reason, well, one of the many reasons.
6,000 submissions this year, we can only take 100, I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. But I'm quite thankful. Actually, I don't think we've recognized Raindance yet. I'm very thankful for this. So if I can indulge you just for.
They spend a bunch of money on film festivals, and I think we're just 2 more questions, so if you want to
Okay.
wrap that, and then we'll.
Yeah,
do
sorry.
2 more. No worries.
$1,300 marketing to film festivals. That didn't really amount to a goddamn thing. So and we got lucky again. Rick, through some of his industry contacts, Rick's the writer. Through some of his industry contacts, he had 1 or 2 contacts and some distributors, and so we just sent out screeners. And I mean, the big disadvantage being nobodies, and being nobodies without any connections, is that you don't know how to go about doing things properly. So getting programmers or getting people to actually support your film. So we got lucky. We got our movie in front of a distributor who, they were just collecting a whole bunch of content for a big push to E1. And we ended up being their flagship film. I think we just played well, the poster, the trailer, the first 20 minutes. Those are the 3 things that I kept hearing. Great poster. My next door neighbors, anyway, I won't get into that. OCAD students are great, they're creative and they're cheap. You know, there's a
Any
lot of
OCAD
talent.
students who need a job?
There's a lot of
Or
talent
a
in Toronto.
pizza slice.
Or pizza slice, I fed them exactly. So that's what we did, frankly. I was just get out to one distributor, and then we turned down, I turned down 3 separate distribution contracts before signing the 4th time, which is important. Do not take the first offer, it's shit. It was,
E1, by the way, who JB signed on with, are also the distributors of Mad Men in Canada and the Hunger Games, so.
The 3 you turned down from the same distributor, you just kept going back. They just kept coming back.
no, 2 from a separate distributor. The one guy's name was John Crook. I was like, that's
All right, with the poppy, yeah, right there.
Yeah, I'm curious, JB, with your lack of experience, how did you figure out how to speak to your actors to get what you wanted?
Frankly, we could only do 3 or 4 takes. So it was very much, everyone was operating on a rather frantic level of energy. And we were all, because we were all lugging equipment out to the bush, we were all very much already in the location. I thought the locations did a lot of work that I didn't have to do, especially bringing the actors to the lair. Like that place is real. So everyone was chatty and having a lot of fun, and then I brought them to the lair and everybody shut up. Everyone was looking around, and I just thought, okay, this is perfect, because once there, I don't really need to do very much. So it was, I had to trust a lot in everyone else's ability. So a lot, from what I hear, directing is like 50% of directing is casting, and knowing, finding the right people to work with, and then knowing how to trust them. for example, I think you asked me a question earlier this evening about the music, which I think is awesome. It's all original composition. The gentleman I worked with, I found him off the internet. I spoke to him a couple times, recognized his talent, gave him a bunch of notes. He came back with a first round of music, gave him some more notes. I didn't talk to him for 2 weeks. Came back to me, he was like, I don't know how you work, man, but no director I've worked with before doesn't talk to me after. I said, well, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't know shit about music, and so like me being over your shoulder saying, well, what about this? Micromanaging you is not gonna help, and I think it very much speaks for itself. So I think recognizing everyone's individual talent, it's a collaborative effort, allowing people to speak for themselves. Occasionally, some people, actors would try to do one thing or something else, and you have to remind them, okay, well, a bit more along this vein or not, but I think you have to trust in everyone else's talent. If you don't, I mean, that's just, I'm a fairly confident person, so I know what I'm shit at and I know what I'm good at, and I'm very forthcoming in saying one or the other. Kind of makes me modest and arrogant at the same time, but whatever. But that's kind of the case, and so when I didn't know something, I just told everybody, I don't know. What do you think? These are my thoughts. I don't know. What do you think? And we were able to immediately discern what worked well and what didn't.
I'm the lighting guy.
Yeah, they were the lighting guys, and then they saw the lenses that I got, and they're like, where did you find these? And I just said, $120, lift. They're great. So
Great
a
resource.
lot of resources in Toronto.
Okay, so we're gonna take one last question. Make it good, make it good. All right, Terrence.
Okay, I enjoyed the film, but I was wondering, is it gonna be a sequel or what? At the ending, what are the...
I like these questions. This is good. You're not dead. I don't know. You could be.
I'm still sitting here.
The two lead characters opening up their eyes.
Yeah.
Is it meant to be ambiguous or open to interpretation or?
Well, I think that scene, I think they're in pretty dire straits in that scene, so the eyes are open, and I think it kind of speaks to him just playing with his food, sort of thing. Excuse me. If you're from a finance background, then yes, we will do a sequel. And